So reviewing Umberto Lenzi's American Rickshaw recently made me remember this one, Eaten Alive from 1980, which was part of the whole Italian cannibal movie cycle. And I reckon it may well be Umberto Lenzi's most unusual and possibly his most insane movie. The whole thing starts out rather bizarrely, I guess you'd say, with an odd little man poison blow darting random strangers in Niagara Falls and Manhattan. And this really doesn't seem to have a whole lot of bearing on the rest of the movie, I don't think. But I'm guessing that Umberto Lenzi probably wanted to visit Niagara Falls and Manhattan with his family or something like that. I mean, any excuse for a bit of travel. And then the whole thing shifts up a gear with a wealthy Southern belle, played by Janet Agron from Ratman and Red Sonja, and she's searching for a sister who's fallen into a cult, and she's been taken to South America. So from here on in, the whole movie's basically an exploitation adaptation of the Jonestown Massacre, the real event, with Jim Jones, mixed with Cannibal Holocaust, with just a pinch of Alan Quatermain or Indiana Jones for good measure. And it is a recipe for success, or somewhat success. So we meet the guide who Janet Agron hires in a very Deer Hunter-inspired arm wrestling scene. A bit of an arm wrestling competition, kind of like Over the Top with more violence. And instead of Russian roulette, there's a spike either side of the table, and the loser gets his hand or his arm permanently maimed. So basically it's the Italian version of Over the Top, as I said. I've got no idea why this would impress Janet Agron or make her think that this guy is qualified in any way, shape or form, but nevertheless she hires him to guide her through the jungle to find her sister. And he explains that the commune is in the jungle beyond Shakira. And why the Latina pop princess is involved is anyone's guess. No idea what that's about. Now, right here's where I give fair warning to all of you. Eaten Alive, like all these Italian cannibal films, really does force feed us more senseless and unnecessary animal cruelty scenes than your average factory farm does. I've got no idea why animal cruelty was a convention of all these Italian cannibal movies. Maybe you guys can discuss in the comments. And then there's a giant crocodile ambush of their canoe. And there's a cannibal attack, and there's other hijinks before they finally track down Jim Jones. I mean Jonas, and the infamous Jonastown, not to be confused with Jonestown. So by this point in the movie, you're either going to be repulsed and turn it off, or you've drank the Kool-Aid and you're going to be right down with it. So Jonas, played by Ivan Rassimov from The Humanoid and Raiders of Atlantis, looks like cricketer and former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan. And he's kind of more of a new age cult leader than Jim Jones, and he's a way snappier dresser, in my opinion. So Jonas always goes into these long-winded sermons, of course, that often sound like Claptrap from The Secret. But at the end of the day, like all these guys that are selling water filters online and boner pills and things like that, he's basically interested in fleecing everyone out of their money and, of course, trying to screw their wives. So it's up to Janet Agron and the Alan Quatermain, Indiana Jones, romancing the stone type character Mark to rescue her sister from Jim Jonas, or Jonas, and Jonastown. Now, aside from the disconcerting scenes of animal cruelty, Eaten Alive is at least partially entertaining as a bit of an oddity of the Italian cannibal cycle. I'm guessing the psychology of including all those animal cruelty scenes is to add realism or something. Who knows? As I said, I'm happy for you guys to discuss in the comments, and I welcome you guys to discuss in the comments why they did this sort of thing. And as for fans of J&B Scotch whisky sightings, this is one of the highlights for that out of the exploitation movies of the 80s and 90s. There's more J&B product placement in Eaten Alive than you can poke a cannibal spear at. And as a matter of fact, I do feel like a nice J&B highball just talking about it after watching the movie. So I guess you'd say these J&B product placements in these 70s and 80s exploitation movies definitely work. They're definitely effective. Probably only cost them a case of J&B for 30 years of advertising. But I digress. I guess you'd say that Eaten Alive certainly is one of Umberto Lenzi's more wacky films, more entertaining, more crazy films. It even has Janet Agron painted head to toe in gold paint for some reason, in a bit of a Goldfinger homage. And it definitely isn't one for the squeamish, I guess you'd say. There are all those obligatory animal cruelty scenes that you get in these Italian cannibal movies, and quite perplexing. The whole methodology of that. As I said, if you'd like to discuss why they did this in the comments, by all means, you're more than welcome. I'll let you guys discuss the merits or otherwise of all these weird, unnecessary animal cruelty scenes. But aside from that, Eaten Alive would probably make a good, I guess, a good double bill, a good precursor to Eliminators, which is a less dark, sillier adventure set in the jungle, one from Charles Band and Empire Pictures. And Eliminators has no animal cruelty, you'll be happy to hear. So probably a way to lighten the mood, lighten things up after you've finished watching Umberto Lenzi's Eaten Alive with Janet Agron. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. As I said, fair warning, this has some very confronting scenes to do with animals, as do all these Italian cannibal movies, which I'm always entertained by the cannibal scenes, but these mystifying, needless, senseless pieces of footage, not so much. So it's really odd that they put them in there, but it is what it is, I guess. So if you're enjoying the content on the channel, by all means, please like, share and subscribe. Help a brother out. This is Fulci Metal Jacket, so we go into horror, exploitation and B-movie reviews of unusual and strange cinema, and everything to do with that kind of part of the universe and other bits and pieces. So otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next time. Hope you have a good day. I'm going to enjoy the rest of mine, and take it easy.